Dr. Peter Drucker, the great leadership guru, once made this statement as he spoke to leaders. He said, "You cannot manage other people until you learn to manage yourself first." What a profound leadership principle. Especially in this day and age, the world that we're living in is changing so rapidly. Everywhere we look, things are changing. We're not quite sure what the new normal might be if we ever get to a new normal again. In this era of fast change, we are tempted to think that our strongest leadership style needs to be head smarts. When in fact, as Dr. Drucker is saying, the most important leadership emphasis and priority needs to be heart smarts. The emphasis on the internal side of our leadership lives, not just what people see on the outside. Hi, I'm Dr. Greg Nelson, and in this new video series, I'm talking about the 5 significant principles that successful leaders prioritize and then incorporate into their lives. 5 leadership principles. Let me illustrate the first principle this way. You may have heard that back in 1992, Michael Plant, an American yachtsman, world-class yachtsman, who had circumnavigated the entire globe several times by himself, made a solo crossing of the North Atlantic. His boat, the Coyote, was top to bottom, inside and out, state-of-the-art. Some days into his trip, his people lost contact with him for whatever reason. They assumed, well, a hurricane is blowing over and he has lots of experience sailing through hurricanes, so he's okay. We'll just give it more time. More time went by, no word from Michael Plant. Finally, they began sending airplanes out and talking to freighters going by, and then that moment came when they got word from a freighter that spotted a sailboat that was upside down, 450 miles from the Azores Islands. When they went up and searched it, they discovered this was in fact the Coyote and no Michael Plant in sight anywhere. Everyone asked the question, how is this possible? State of the art and the most experienced yachtsman to be able to cross solo the North Atlantic Ocean. And then it became clear. He had an 8,000-pound extra weight attached to the keel of his sailboat for this reason. Sailboats are designed with the significance of ballast. Ballast is how much weight you have below the waterline, not above the waterline. You want more weight below the waterline. So he had this 4-ton weight attached to his keel, and in any kind of wind and weather, he could have survived without a problem. Sailboats are designed with that weight below the waterline. Many times, even when they go over, they right themselves again. In this case, it didn't happen. They don't know why he lost that 4-ton extra weight from his keel, but whatever happened, that shifted that ratio of more weight below the waterline than above the waterline. And for whatever reason, when that big wave came or that big wind, fierce wind blew, he didn't have the weight below the waterline like he needed. The storm blew, and a sailor was lost. Tragic. I've thought a lot about that principle, more weight below the waterline than above the waterline, when it comes to leadership. We are so tempted to put all of our emphasis on our externals, how good our company looks to our stockholders, how much money our stockholders are making, how much money our stock is worth, what kind of car we drive, what is our position in a company, what do people see when they see us? That's what matters, our appearance, our reputation, our influence. To the exclusion, unfortunately, of what's below the waterline. The weight, internal weight that people often can't see immediately, but that shapes our character, our integrity, our honesty, our core values. So in this first leadership principle, I'm talking about prioritizing your self-care, your character development. I don't know what it's like for you as a leader, but through the years in my leadership capacities, I've gotten so busy that it's easy for me to prioritize my agenda. And on my agenda, it never tends to get that agenda item that says self-care, character development, take the time. Are you anything like that in your leadership when you look at your agenda? What kind of priority do you actually place on your care as a leader? Who takes care of you? How do you pay attention to the development of your personhood, yourself, your character? Our culture's tilt towards the external instead of the internal shapes many of us as leaders. We fall into that trap. And then when the big strong winds of crisis blow, whatever the crisis might be in your case, in your situation, we don't have the ballast, the weight below the waterline to withstand those fierce winds. And sometimes then we fold, we cave in, we collapse, and we sink. Tragic loss in those moments. So how are you prioritizing your self-care? How much time do you devote every day to things like meditation, those practices that can center and ground you? Maybe in your case it's prayer, that practice that centers and grounds you in something bigger than yourself. Self-reflection, self-awareness, a principle that continues to be shown by research to be one of the most significant principles for effective and successful leaders. Self-awareness, self-reflection, self-evaluation. What about the assessments? Do you take the assessments like emotional intelligence, like your Clifton strengths, like your temperament and your personality, to get a clear and clear insight about what makes you tick, how you are designed to excel in a unique way? How much time are you putting in to understanding your own personal purpose? Here's why I am in the world, to do this purpose, this mission. Here is my personal North Star. And here is my company's North Star. How much then as a leader, as I pay attention to my own internal compass, how much am I as a leader then talking about with my organization, the company's North Star, and how aligned are we, and how do we evaluate our alignment? That's what I'm going to be talking about in the next video. The core values. When's the last time you actually sat down by yourself, looked at your top 5 to 7 core values and said, how am I living these values? How much of an alignment do I have with these words that I have stated are the things that should be driving me, that I want to be driving me. This is the kind of person that I want to become more and more like. The character values of honesty, integrity, transparency, compassion, kindness, trust, courage, empathy. When's the last time you reflected on those character traits? And then asked yourself, what are ways I could build those traits more firmly into and embed them in the foundation of my own personal character? Here's my thing. If we don't prioritize this internal self-care and character development, no one else will do it for us. No one else can breathe their life into us. We have to nurture the soil of our personal lives. And that means taking what I call strategic stops. Those stops along the way, regular stops along the way, that are strategic in the standpoint of developing ourselves to be greater human beings, which in turn then develops our leadership with other people. Because leadership is really leadership only when people trust you enough to follow you, to listen, to be involved in the mission that burns brightly in your heart. They say, yes, this is a person that I can trust, that I believe is authentic and honest. I want to be in their orbit. That's powerful leadership. And it doesn't happen. It doesn't just drop out of the sky suddenly when we become emotionally intelligent. It happens because we pay attention to these values. And we carve out the time in the midst of our busy schedules to prioritize, to reflect, to evaluate. So I'm inviting you today as a leader to put top priority on your self-care. Maybe it's you just need more sleep. Maybe you need to take a day off. Maybe you need to get away from the office for a while. I quote a CEO in my book she says, this time of self-reflection and self-evaluation, to pull away enough to evaluate themselves and reflect on ourselves, she says, she calls this sacred time. It's sacred in the sense that she will allow nothing to interrupt it. It is her top priority. Successful and effective CEOs are the ones that prioritize their self-care and their character development. I invite you to take that challenge. Be the leader that people really trust and want to invest in, that are loyal to. Be the leader that leads by example and modeling. And if you're willing to put in the time for self-care and character development, I guarantee you it will change the atmosphere and culture of your organization, including the teams that work around you. It will be transformational. Don't be another Michael Plant, another one of those leaders that because there's not enough weight below the waterline, when the storm blows, you cave, you capsize, and you're lost. Build that ballast, and it will be the most significant thing you ever do in your leadership principle. That's what Peter Drucker is saying. You can't manage other people until you learn how to manage yourself first. An organization is only as healthy and vibrant as the people in it and as the leader who leads it. Be that leader, and you will reap the rich dividends of taking care of yourself and your character. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.